So what do you think is your magic then?
I think I'm super optimistic. I will always find the silver lining or the positive framing of something that might be tough or challenging. So taking on life's challenges with an approach to learn and to grow rather than to be defeated. So just that optimistic approach to learn and grow in each and every encounter, and helping other people see it that way as well, I guess would be my magic.
Welcome to Magic Academy podcast. Today with us is Lisa. She has been a learning development leader for decades, and currently she is working with Blanchard Communities and helping learning leaders to develop learning strategies. And also she's been avidly advocating for the important role of wellness and well-being among leaders in the workspace. So welcome, Lisa, to the podcast, and such an honor and gratefulness to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Jiani. It's so great to be here with you.
It's been so many years, and finally we get to have you here. And if people were to hear about you for the first time, people probably read about you in different places. But if you were to introduce yourself in a way that nobody has heard about yet, how would you introduce yourself?
So I have been a learning advocate and believer for my whole career, growing up through the learning and development space, having all types of roles, mainly in the healthcare space, but I've also ventured out into hospitality and all different industry. And where I am now is where I got to narrow into the thing I enjoyed the most through my career, which was developing leaders and teams and helping them achieve the success that they're trying to strive for in their organizations. And I'm also a yogi. I practice and teach yoga. And in the last decade or so, I've been trying to infuse my learning from yoga and breath work and meditation into any type of corporate environment that I can find anyone to listen.
I love it. I love it. Very thorough introduction of yourself. Why Blanchard and why mindfulness?
So I had an opportunity to come and work for Blanchard. It's almost coming up on 2 years because I've always been a Blanchard fan. Since my early days in my career when I was becoming a leader, I used the principles I learned from the Ken Blanchard writings and books and SL2, which is how to meet people where they are in whatever scenario, task-driven experience that they need your support and help. That was something that I carried through all of my years of leadership. And when I had an opportunity to come work for what I considered the master of leadership development, it was amazing, especially because of the heart and the connection to the human spirit that the Blanchard Company believes in. We really do practice and model what we teach. And so I got an opportunity to come work here and work with clients all around the globe, helping them determine what kinds of leadership strategies that they should have. And the mindfulness really came into place for me through the pandemic because I needed it. Yoga and mindfulness and meditation helped me survive through, I'm sure for everyone, was a very difficult period of time. And when I think about back in the day, we didn't bring a lot of that to work. You left your personal issues and problems at home, and you didn't take the time as much at work to connect to your breath, to connect to your person, to take moments in your day to move and just be you. And now it's just such a more open thing. People are very open to it. I'll have the beginning of a session, everybody close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, to ready your mind for the learning. And people are like, okay, where back a few years ago, it'd be like, what is she doing? she's lost her mind, no pun intended, but it's definitely much more accepted. And I love that. So that's one of the silver linings, I think, that came out of that really challenging period of time in the workspace. Is it is important to focus, to ground down, to take moments for yourself, to walk, to move, to breathe during your workday. Because if you're not breathing fully, you're breathing just to hear. It's just, if you're breathing and it's just in your lungs, it's that shallow breath. And that's what you're offering your work, your capability, your connection to others. But if you take the time to breathe solely through from deep in your belly, or all the way from your feet, all the way up, you actually are bringing that into the way you think, the way you connect. And it's like an extension of the mindfulness you can bring to your work if you're fully present, fully aware, and fully focused. So I do think that this mindfulness practice is going to keep coming into the workspace, and I'm just so excited to be a part of it.
Well, since we already have you here in this space, are you open to take maybe 1 to 2 minutes and guiding our audience to, before we dive deeper into the mind space, guide us to dive deeper through our breath work and into the heart space?
Absolutely. So what I recommend for people to do is, in the middle of your workday, when you feel your shoulders creeping up and you're tense and just there's a lot going on in your workspace, that's the opportunity to sit back, relax, and take a mindful moment. So I'll walk you through what that mindful moment could look like. Really simple. Taking your feet and grounding down, placing them on the earth, all corners of the pads of your feet, grounding down, closing your eyes, taking your palms to the top of your legs, and just settling in, relaxing your shoulders down, closing your eyes, and coming into your breath. Our breath is such an amazing thing because it breathes all on its own all day long without us giving it a second thought. But we can also have conscious breath. So when you're coming into a mindful moment, bring yourself into your breath, be conscious of your breath, and start to pay attention to your breath. Taking a deep belly breath from your belly, breathing in deeply, inhaling through your nose, all the way up to your neck, to the top, till you can't take any more air in, and hold it at the top of the breath. And then release it out, exhaling either through your mouth or through your nose. Then taking another deep breath in through your belly, all the way up to your shoulders, to your neck, all the way up to the tippy top. Take that breath in and let it go. And with your breath, you're even having movement, bringing yourself up and down with your breath. Inhaling up, exhaling out, inhaling, exhaling. And taking a few moments to breathe in this conscious breath, focusing, it brings your mind into the breath. It helps you focus on the here, the now, the present moment, letting all that busyness in your mind escape you for the moment. And the next thing you can do is bring some movement in, either shrugging your shoulders up on an inhale and exhaling them down. You can also bring your arms up to the sky, inhaling and exhaling them down. You can also do side stretches over to the right, inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling to the other side and exhaling. Twists are also great, twisting over to the right and then back to the left. So you can see that if you just get some movement and breath, you've definitely centered and you focused, and all that shallowness and all that tension and stress that you were feeling moments ago is gone magically, and you can continue on with your work. So if you can do something like that, just each time you feel the need, or scheduling it in your day, or just any time that you feel like you need just to step away. Taking a brisk walk is also a wonderful way. And on your walk, thinking about your breath. So coming into your breath as you walk, coming into your focus and centering in, maybe even doing a body scan from the crown of your head to the tip of your toes, just following your breath all the way along. So there's all kinds of simple things that you can do, just even sitting at your desk, where you're being mindful, you're being present, you're bringing your breath into the moment, and you're giving yourself a little vacation, a little escape from the current moment and the workday. And then you come back totally focused, in a better space, ready to tackle the next task.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Lisa, for guiding us through this. Just such a mini moment, but have such a deep cleansing and recalibration kind of impact in us. And sometimes when people think about, oh, health and wellness, I need to do this 1 hour yoga, I need to do this 1 hour meditation. But people are like, oh, my mind is always like running around and it's hard for me to sit and just like meditate. But I think your approach is much more doable, and it's even 1 minute, 2 minutes, like maximum 5 minutes that everybody has in their days, instead of going through LinkedIn.
Rolling.
Scrolling, just like, wait, okay, so I guess it's time for me to do this breath work and help myself to feel centered. It's such a small investment, but has such a big benefit. Then my question would be, let's transit from this heart body space into the brain space or the mind space. That gets me curious. Is there a sort of like maybe a connection between the idea of the situational leadership from Blanchard framework and the mindfulness, the well-being part of leadership? Is there any sort of like connections where they help us to lead better in particular situations? And maybe for folks who don't know about the framework, maybe it's time for us to share that as well. Curious to learn.
Yes. So as I was thinking about mindfulness moments, one of the things that we teach at Blanchard is that in each area of leadership, there's a mindset and a skill set. And the skill set are the tools, the approach, the ideas, the conversation starters, the model, the framework, the way to really connect and lead. The mindset is framing it up, getting the right thinking, because if you're leading, you have to be in the right frame of mind. You have to find the right space in order to model and to connect with others and to be able to embrace the skill sets. And so what better way to consider your mindset but to center yourself, to ground yourself, to breathe into yourself, to be connected with yourself, that level of awareness and being present. And there's so many areas of connectedness that you can gain from mindfulness. You can be, for one, present in the moment with the people you're serving and the people you're supporting and the people you're leading. You can be more open-minded when you've taken the moment to be more mindful and present and connected and calm. It actually calms you down. I was thinking a moment ago when we were talking about taking that moment. If you think about when people are stressed or there's a moment of tension or something's happening or somebody's having a panic attack, what's the first thing we tell them to do? Breathe. Right? We talk people who are so pent up and stressed and in tension, and whether you're, having an accident or an emergency or something, we talk them off the ledge or into the center and into the moment through breath. Like breathe deep, take some deep breaths, take some deep breaths. What if you're taking deep breaths just in your normal day-to-day goings about, right? Then if you're practicing that, you're going to be even more ready for those urgent matters because your breath is going to be so instinctual. You're just going to automatically go right to your breath. And then those tense moments will start to dwindle and you'll breathe into them and you'll find a way to stay connected in every interaction and every connection. I think I'm just thinking out loud that it's such an amazing concept to breathe into your work, right?
Breathe into your
Breathe
work. I
into your
love
work.
that.
And then you're empathetic, you're connected, building yourself and your presence with others. And you're also going to model and help them to come with you along that journey. So if you're a leader who believes in being present and taking time for yourself, you're going to showcase that and others will do the same. And then we can all be healthier and more connected and present together.
I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. And as we breathe into our work and our leadership, people may wonder what is the framework that Blanchard has developed? What is that situation leadership? Can you share with us a little bit on that as well?
So we have lots of frameworks and very cool ways of approaching leading others. Probably one of the things that we're most famous for, or we are most famous for, is our SL2, which is leading situationally. So dependent on your direct report, the person you're leading and guiding, where they are with the task. So, what is their confidence and competence and capability in that task? And how committed are they in that task? And you're constantly weighing that out and then meeting that person where they need you. So, you're giving them the right support or the right guidance in every situation. So, you're literally coming to them where they are, and it can be the same person that you meet differently depending on the task at hand. So I may have a seasoned employee that needs more direction and support in one task, but much less direction and support in another task based on their own capability. So if they're competent and committed, it's going to be the difference of how I come and provide that direction to them. And the whole model really helps people to lead in a situational way where they're not overpowering and they're not underpowering. They're not over supervising, they're not under supervising. They're meeting in that beautiful sweet spot of leadership that people appreciate. My boss knows what I need. They're meeting me where I am. And we also teach the same thing to direct reports and individual contributors, how to ask for the right support, how to be a self-leader and help get the guidance that you need. And so our framework is very simple, it's very obvious, and it works. And I've used it through my entire career, having learned it early on.
I love it. As you were talking through that, it's connect me with like teachers as leaders. Like when educators educate or teach a class, they're always assessing the situation and guiding the learners through different challenges and give them as support as they needed and meet where they are so they can go to where they wanted to be. And the breath work, the mindfulness and the movement that you are advocating fits also perfectly into this framework in terms of if we are super stressed or when we stress, we tend to close our mind. And when we have that, when we breathe into our workspace, the situation that people need to lead or be led, then our perceptions are able to be opened and we allow multiple perspectives to come in, and that will help the leaders or the followers to better identify what themselves need and what the other person needs so they can work more harmoniously and mindfully.
Jiani, if you think about teaching, I'm really excited about within our facilitation network, our consulting partners across the world. Something that I'm excited about offering is that mindfulness moment at the start of every session. Now that we're so virtual, we spend the time to get the virtual norms out of the way. Turn everything else off. Don't get distracted. Be focused, be centered, get in your little Zoom frame and have everything that you need to really focus and pay attention. And we talk about the tools and the tips and tricks and the things that we can use on the Zoom or the Teams or the WebEx so that we're engaging, because it's more difficult to engage when you're on Zoom or virtually than, of course, if you're live and you can feel the person's charisma and presence. So we go through the virtual norms, but I love the idea of taking a mindful moment to center and to get your mind fit and ready to learn, because learning is flexing your mind muscle. Right? We exercise to develop a better physique and to be healthier for our body. But if you think about a fit mind and exercising your mind, learning is a huge way to exercise our mind. And the breath work and the mindfulness together can ready your mind to be open and engaged for the learning. So I'm hopeful that will be something that we start to infuse in all of our classes at Blanchard as well.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that. Mm-hmm. And what role do you think multicultural or inclusion diversity play in the context of like mindfulness, wellness, and situational leadership?
Yeah, so I think that other cultures may be advanced in some aspects of mindfulness. I know just from my own experience with yoga, coming over to our civilization, it came from other parts of the world that were mindful and meditating. And I think it's a newer exercise here in the States alone, and also European countries as well. I think that maybe the Northern Hemisphere has some catch-up work. So I do think it's important to recognize that there is some cultures that may consider things unique and different, and maybe the mindfulness activity is unique to their own bring. So you bring whatever mindfulness activity makes sense to you. Now, moving your body around obviously could get into some concerns if somebody has a disability or can't move in a certain way. So having modifications, and we do that in yoga practice, having modifications for the body movement. But honestly, I think breath work is universal. Like our bodies breathe the same way. And I think if we can it's almost like from a diversity and inclusion perspective, breath is something we all have in common.
Yes.
So we could all find ourselves together in our breath.
Yes. It's like a human language. I love that. And the next question can be a little bit challenging. The role of like childlike wonder and childlike play usually in the workplace are seen as something should not be encouraged, and it's like a form of like unprofessionalism, or when people think about it, I'm not sure. How do you define childlike wonder, and what role do you think it can potentially play in the workplace moving forward?
So I guess I could speak to this from two spaces. One, at Blanchard, we play. So there's no issue there. I think that we bring our dogs to work. Now, I'm remote, so my dog lives with me. My dogs live with me, so it's a little different. But at our corporate headquarters, dogs are coming to work. We play with our dogs at work, and cats. I've seen cats come to work as well.
Love
and
it.
Playfulness is part of our culture because we believe in the human spirit. We believe in leaders powered for good. So most of our principles and thinking are around being connected. Definitely business oriented and serving our clients in the best way that we can. But along the way, we do play. But if I look back at my experience in working in industry, I think that playfulness has sometimes been there, sometimes not. And I do think that the more we can engage in the human spirit, you can tap into that creativity. We have a newer course called Fearless Innovation. And one of the key things about innovation is to play, to be curious, to open your mind up to some of those childlike ideas that you had that got taken away when you started to come into the structure of life.
I
So
love that.
I think there's always room for play, and I think it's important.
And also you mentioned about like in the early school years, we usually do and like the physical activities, and we play, and we do all sorts of music. And once we start to get into the workspace, then that kind of opportunities are taken away. So I think the mindful movement, the breath work is that beautiful way to nudge that message in, and through
Absolutely.
movement and breathing, and bring people back to the center of themselves. That's beautiful. And
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that the creativity or the movement, the breath and movement and exercise and like your whole self stopped being invited once you get between college and workspace. At some point, it just wasn't in the recipe for the day anymore. Because if you think about growing up as a child, you had physical education, PE, there was always some physical movement throughout your growing up years. And even in college, a little bit, but pretty much after you finished your academic career, you come into the workplace, and only those really innovative and very playful organizations would consider keeping the movement and the breath in the day-to-day activity for employees. And now we have a workforce that's unhealthy because we don't have it as a set as an expectation to be mindful of exercise and connection and movement. You can't only use your mind, you need to use your whole self. And it should really be a part of an expectation that people are healthy and moving and connecting as part of your holistic self to be healthier and bring your whole self to work.
yeah, and then be a better situational leaders to identify what the situation requires and needs, and meet everybody at the moment of needs, and therefore projects will get moved to the right direction. People are feeling energized and motivated and happy and to work, and it's just a countless benefit that's coming from that perspective or that lens. Beautiful. And as we look into the future
Mhm.
with the mindfulness, the movement, the situational leadership that Blanchard's always embodying, we see fast technology developments like artificial intelligence, extended realities, Web3, and brand machine interactions, and there may be more crazy ones coming down the road. What would be the best future look like? Um,
So when we start to talk about technology, I think that the best thing technology can do for us is tell us to go for a walk and then leave us alone. I'm not so sure that technology should come into our mindfulness, our breath work, and our movement space, because then we're bringing something artificial into the human element. And I love your step tracking, and I love meditation apps. So I definitely take advantage of technology in my mindful space, but you also need to just go out and put your feet in the grass and enjoy nature and get away from technology and stop the scrolling and actually take time away. But you know what? I'm sure there's some AI out there that's got a way of coming in and helping you along. I'm sure there's more to come where that is being thought about.
How would virtual reality play then? So you would prefer not to be in an artificial environment?
I would rather be in real
in
life.
nature.
But for some, we come back to being inclusive. If a virtual reality is going to make you move, like they have the games and hey, it's good for you, right? Because it's getting you to move. If there was a virtual space that helped you to breathe fully, maybe that could be something. So if it's helping you to get to the result of being more mindful and being more connected with your breath, sure. I still believe, though, that the outside world, the fresh air, the things that we've gotten way too far away from are really important.
I love that. It's also coming back to the theme is like centering, grounding, and
Mhm.
nature, just like breath work. It's been there
Mhm.
forever, and it has this grounding effect for us. Once we step into the nature, nothing can really.
Yeah,
That's really.
virtual nature just doesn't do it for me.
Mm. Yeah, I can definitely see
Yeah.
from that
Mm.
perspective. Do you think there are potential challenges that you can foresee or potential risks that you can foresee as we move into more of a
Mm.
technology abundant world?
I think it's the danger of too much technology. Like I'm very guilty of going to sleep with my phone. Not because I'm scrolling, but because I'm using it for a meditation. Where if I could just meditate on my own, I could leave the phone across the house plugged in and be separated from it. So I think challenges are that we're so programmed to need technology right near us that it's definitely playing a part in creating less movement, less breath work, less connection to people. And so I just hope that there's a balance that's established. We don't want to just let it take over our minds, our body, our breath. We want to keep that even relationship with technology, I think.
So
Mm.
ideally, we would like to enhance our own kind of ability to be present, to see the situation, to identify what's needed, rather than being dictated by the technology. Unless the technology can do a great job.
Yeah, I like the idea of technology always staying under the line and being a support and never stepping above the line and being a takeover. Like, if we could still be in charge, that would be great.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I think some of our audiences, they are building new technologies. And I think that's always a good reminder to keep in mind that there's called innovator's bias. So people who build tools usually feel like, oh,
Oh, I can do
perfect,
everything.
can
Take
change the
over.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
so be authentic, be honest about the potential, and be open to and ethical and reasonable measures and prevent to make sure that we as human beings can still master the technologies. With
Rather than them mastering us.
yes, and it's tricky, it's hard. Beautiful. Before we move to the magic piece of the conversation, were there any particular thought leaders or startups that you follow that you would recommend our audience to continuously learning about?
I love the Fit Mind app. I bought the app about a year, maybe 2 years ago, and I went through the entire course, and it really opened my eyes up to ways to actually exercise your mind. And it was learning about exercising your mind through also meditation, and I learned a lot. And it was just a really great resource. And I actually go on their website and tool around in their blogs because it's just all that neuroscience and the discoveries that we have been able to achieve around the mind and how amazing it is. It's just crazy that just such a small percent of our mind is in the conscious space. And so much is happening in our unconscious space, I think is really interesting. And then I love the apps on the phone that allow me to meditate. or talk me through, like yoga nidra is a big fan. I'm a big fan of being able to relax into sleep. And also I like to be engaged in like ideas and unconscious thoughts while I sleep, especially things I want to work on. So I love it's Insight Timer is a great app that I use for that. And yeah, and those are two technologies that I've really enjoyed. And then when I'm designing my yoga classes, I I will use some of the thinking of teachers around the globe from the Insight Timer to bring into my own classes. So that really helps as well.
I love that. I love that. And so then let me do a quick recap for our audience and then we'll talk about the magic. So we talked about Lisa's story and the kind of whole reason why she ventured on this whole focus on mindfulness and wellness, and why Blanchard framework, situational leadership really resonate with the whole message that she's trying to advocate for. Luckily, we got to practice a brief session of breath work and body movement, and that helps us to get centered into the mind space. Moving to the next, we talked about the benefit of wellness and mindfulness. We talked about the inclusiveness and multiculturalness that comes with a mindful present, and how that resonates with the framework of situational leadership that Blanchard has developed and put forth. We also explored the role of childlike wonder and how that can potentially make a difference in the modern workplace, helping our leaders and individual contributors to be more situated, to be more creative, innovative, and to create a much safer and innovative space for everyone, and especially in a time where there's so much uncertainty. And that helps us to actually feed those uncertainties into as a delicious source of inspirations and into a potential output of solving solutions and better leading people and better meeting people where they are, and give all the support that they need. We also looked into the future, how modern technologies can potentially impact the mindfulness space, and how, according to Lisa's suggestion, how we as human beings manage to stay at the master level over the technology is very important, and for us to have a sustainable future as human beings. So then the question would be, so Lisa, when you were around like 11, maybe between 11 and 16, what did you enjoy playing or creating or doing that time just disappeared?
So I was thinking about this, and honestly, at 11, I was dancing, creating dances with my neighbors and entertaining my parents and whoever else would watch through dance and movement. So it's funny because all these years later, movement and breath is so important to me. And I think it probably brings in the inner child inside of me that I always loved movement and dance. And I took tons of tap and jazz and ballet when I was young. I didn't extend it into my life and become a professional in any stretch, but I always enjoyed entertaining and connecting, and dancing is a form of expression. And yoga, I think, is also a form of connecting with yourself and understanding yourself. And if I hadn't discovered yoga, I'm not sure what kind of dancing I'd be doing, but it's definitely filled that space for me to be able to move, to breathe, and to connect with people.
I love that. I like to dance as well. We have those like a folk dance, and I think when we're dancing, we're very centered within our body, within our existence as human being. The feeling is pure joy, and you
And
want to share the
balance.
joy with others.
Dance brings balance. That's another part of yoga, that through movement, breath, and balance, you find great balance in the art and practice of yoga. And that would be like almost like the next step. Once you're having these mindful moments of movement and breath, once you've like ready for the next stage or you want to advance, is to try to start to look at ways to balance, maybe standing in a tree pose or standing just even on one foot, bringing the other foot up and finding ways to balance and then trying it on the other side, or even just in some formal way, finding ways to center and balance is so focused, it's so centered, it's so connected. That's another beautiful expression of being mindful and being in the moment.
I love that. I love that. Were there any challenges that you have to go through that helped shape who you are as of?
I think I'll probably answer the one that everybody does. It's like those 3 years or 4 years of that crazy pandemic time. But if I go back before that, I definitely had ups and downs through my career path and always really enjoying developing people. And that's probably the most, if I look back on my career, the most satisfying part of my role has been the people that I've touched, the people that I've helped develop in their careers. And then if I look back on my personal life, of course, I look at my family and my friends and the connections and the ways that we've had fun and we've been connected and loved on each other, and just being present, being in the moment, I think is huge. It's so important. And I think in my older career and my older time now, I look back and I think the times that I've been most centered and connected have been when I've had the people in my life and I've been really close to them. And that's been my focus. And that's also workspace, work people. Like I have a lot of best friends from work. I've never considered work and personal really separate. I consider the whole experience of life all together. So I do think you make best friends at work.
I love that because
Mhm.
sometimes the challenges comes to the moment where we realize what we really value and make that decision to pivot, to
Mhm.
realign, and the courage to make that pivot would be very important. And that could be times of struggles and challenge in that. And I think it's hard to always align with first to
Mhm.
know what really makes you thrive and then to make conscious decisions and pivoting point to realign with that as we go through our
Yeah.
lives. And it's so important. It's like the north light or the centered space. Let's go
Yeah.
going back to the centered space. So what do you think is your magic then?
Hmm. I think I'm super optimistic. I will always find the silver lining or the positive framing of something that might be tough or challenging. So taking on life's challenges with an approach to learn and to grow rather than to be defeated. So just that optimistic approach to learn and grow in each and every encounter, and helping other people see it that way as well, I guess would be my magic. Yeah, because I'm really to a point where my career has been amazing, but I'm not looking to climb any more ladders. I now just want to be able to contribute, to add value, and to give of my experience, of my knowledge. Continue, of course, to learn and to grow, which you never want to stop doing, but being able to give back some of the things I've been able to receive as a human.
Mm.
Mhm.
I appreciate that. I think that's magic that you carry. People feel that. Like when I was like working with you and I can sense that your optimism and your care that you just naturally have with you is very embracing and it attracts people to surround you and be with you and be led by you. And I think that's the underlying reason, because the optimism and the desire to and grow, people feel that. So I'm a
Awesome.
witness, and I'm a witness, and
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
for that.
Yeah, even in the toughest and challenging circumstances, there's always the people that you work with and that you get to build relationships with is the most beautiful part about the space that you're in each day, right? We would really have humans need humans. We need each other. So I do think that finding ways to be connected, to be together, even if it's virtually, is something that I strive and I continue and I hope that I always get to do.
Beautiful. I hope the world sees your magic, and hope more people get to develop their own magic, and so their magic can help other people, and the magic evolve with us, and something change, something does not change, and that's a good part of life. It's always mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Lisa, for coming to the podcast. Such a great honor to have you. And for folks who wanted to know more about Lisa and her work and Blanchard, all the information is in the show note below. So please connect and please co-create adventures together. And it's so good to have you, Lisa.
So great to be with you. I'm so happy we got to do this.
Me too.